Coco Gauff won the women's side. Arina Sabalenka self-destructed and then acted like a brat afterwards. I don't know if you saw the video of her ripping her rackets out of her bag and throwing them, bending them up. She took the racket, the final one she used in the final match she lost. She took it and bent it totally like this,
Wow.
and threw it against the wall. What a tantrum! What a sad commentary. And Coco just was aggressive. Sabalenka had 70 unforced errors because Coco was just running her all over the court. And then obviously, what we saw in the men's final, what Carlos Alcaraz did to Sinner, the Swede, he was down 2-0, and Alcaraz came back and fought off 3 match points, kept the thing going, and wound up going 5 sets and beat him.
Wow.
And he beat him at the end, John. They were tied at the end of 5 sets. They had a 10-point tiebreaker. I mean, it was drama. It was electric. Alcaraz overcame 7 double faults in that championship match against Sinner. I mean, it was spectacular. He fought off 3 match points. He hit 70 winners. They ran each other ragged. It was an all-time record 5-hour, 29-minute final match. Never in the history of the French has there ever been a match that long. And, of course, it was played on clay. So Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner, they're the next 2 stars on the horizon. Alcaraz has won 5 Grand Slams already, and he's only 22 years of age.
Whoa.
And it was amazing that you would think in the finals that the fans packed that stadium. It'd kind of be split. It was pro-Spaniard. It was absolutely amazing. They were rooting. And now Sinner's got some controversy because he had been found guilty of an illegal substance in his system, and they appealed it, and he only got a 3-month suspension rather than a 2-year ban. So when Alcaraz was down 2-0 and then started to mount this comeback, everybody in that stadium turned to be fans of the Spaniard rather than the Swede. It was electric. So that was just phenomenal. Horse racing, Belmont Stakes, pretty cool in upstate New York at Saratoga. Sovereignty, the Derby winner who won in all the mud in Kentucky back in May, comes from 5th place with a power run. So strong, finished with a 3-length victory. Beat Journalism. Journalism was the Preakness winner just a couple of weeks ago. Journalism ran all 3 of the Triple Crown races and really looked like it ran out of gas. And the third horse was Bob Baffert's horse, Rodriguez. Rodriguez didn't run in the first 2 Triple Crown races because of illness and then injury. Rodriguez bolted out of the gate, furious pace for the first mile, and just kind of died. But the pace was way too strong. Journalism tried to get the lead, then Journalism kind of hit a wall, ran out of gas, and then here came Sovereignty sprinting to the finish line. It was really impressive. U.S. soccer is not getting better. They got beat by Turkey in a friendly this past weekend. Gave up goals in the 24 and 27-minute mark, never recovered, did not play with any rhythm at all. And again, this is Team USA that was without 13 of its key players, led by Christian Pulisic. Mauricio Pochettino, the coach, has just taken hits from everybody in soccer. They've now lost 3 matches in a row internationally. They have 1 more friendly on Tuesday night, but they don't have their full team. And then they're going to go into the Gold Cup without their full team. Pulisic and all those guys are not going to play. They're going to probably get knocked out of there. And then they're going to have 8 months, try to get everybody back healthy to train for the World Cup in soccer. But it was just terrible. They've lost all the momentum of popularity for Team USA on the men's side right now. And this is Pochettino, who had himself a really good set of credentials when he coached in the English Premier League and has come here. All those guys have gotten hurt, and he's tried to implement a very different system, and he's doing it with young backups. You could hardly recognize anybody that was on the roster that was playing in this game against Turkey. So they've really got a set of problems here. And it's so late in the game. I don't think you can make a coaching change at this point in time. Who are you going to hire at this point in time. You just got to get your players back healthy. And the last topic, it says Los Angeles Times. This kind of came out of nowhere. It's Bill Plaschke, who's their senior columnist, just wrote a really emotional column. He has Parkinson's. And he's 73. Bill's been there a long time, used to work for the San Diego Union and Tribune, came from the upper Midwest. A little bit different guy. But we've lost 3 columnists now in the span of 2.5, or maybe 2.5 months, maybe 6 months, because T.J. Simers passed away of a brain tumor. He was a very outspoken columnist. And the UT lost Bryce Miller, who died of after a terrible, bitter fight with cancer. And now Plaschke, he just wrote this unbelievable column. I ask you, if you get a chance to read it on the LA Times, he talks about walking into a clinic where all these other senior citizens are. And they're teaching boxing and skills, and these older people are punching bags and skipping rope like boxers would train. And they're all 73 to 90, and they all have Parkinson's. And Bill Plaschke said, I sat there and I watched all them and then realized I was one of them. Really emotional, well-written column. And Plaschke has won a Pulitzer he's a wordsmith. Really, really good column. Nice guy, a little bit offbeat, but he wrote it's a great column. You get a chance to check it out. Bill Plaschke and Parkinson's disease and what he's fighting through. Real hell of a column. Okay, John, the floor is yours if you wish to talk about tennis, Alcaraz, and you want to talk about, obviously, the Belmont Stakes, Team USA. You got spare time. You want to apply for the soccer job if it opens? Go ahead.
Well, just a couple of comments. It's interesting that there have been different times in my life where I've been a big fan of tennis, and at other times that I just sort of peripherally follow the headlines, right? And I'm kind of in one of those peripherally time frames. I really should be more focused, especially now that Coco is doing really well, because it's usually always the American stars that attract me to want to watch the sport. Especially, I remember just as a kid in the 70s, I mean, it was the golden era, and in the 80s as well, with stars for both the men and the women's side. But here's one thing that was always bugged me about tennis is who came up with the way they do scoring? It's like 15, and then the second point gets you 15, it gets you to 30, and then the third point is only to 40. It's only a 10-point. The scoring system is irrational. Do you know anything about that?
No, I pass. It's about the only thing in the world I don't know anything about, and I don't really care because it's tradition. I like it the way it is. Why are you arguing about changing? Well, it's always been that way. But in your spare time, if you're not going to apply for these jobs I recommended, just go ahead and type in there, who came up with the idea to score tennis 15, 30, 40, love, advantage.
It's just kind of crazy. So anyways, but by the way, about, 15, 20 years ago, my wife and I spent a weekend in Palm Springs, and they had clay courts there.
Sure.
And we got to play on the clay court, and that was really kind of fun. And it's definitely a different kind of game. As far as the other things, Team USA, I just think the coach is kind of hamstrung. If Pulisic and all these other stars don't want to play, I mean, what's he going to do? But I was watching that game, and they were down, to Turkey, and I was looking at the roster. And I was like, who the hell are these guys? Yeah. And so I went on the internet and I looked at who was there on the roster for the game day, and I saw just only a few names. Like Tim Ream was a name I recognized, but most of them, they were just young kids. I just didn't know much about them.
Well, they've had just an inordinate number of injuries from their players who are playing abroad, and that's why Pochettino met with each of these guys and their agents and said, you take the summer off. You need to rehab so you'll be ready for the World Cup, because it does me no good to have you come out here and play hurt, play at 50%, maybe get hurt again, and then not have you for the World Cup. So in essence, what they're doing is they're sweeping away these friendlies in the Gold Cup, the CONCACAF qualifying, and saying, miss it. We've already qualified for the World Cup. The most important thing is to have you here. But the soccer purist, Alexi Lawless has just been nonstop of his criticism of Pochettino. But at the end of the day, they need Pulisic, and they need Gioreno, and they need all. And Bolagan has not come back. He's had 2 different injuries. These guys all got hurt playing abroad. They need him in the World Cup when it's the real deal here in the States. So, but Pochettino he's force feeding all these young guys on the developmental squads, bringing them up, and giving them practice time and then putting them out there and having them play against Turkey. And it's just, but it hasn't gone well.
Yeah. Then, by the way, Plaschke, I'm sorry to hear about the Parkinson's.
Yeah.
I mean, my grandmother had that. It's just brutal. But I just remember Plaschke. He was on that Around the Horn show quite a bit, wasn't he?
Early on, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, it's sad that we've lost some really important journalists here in news media and print media in Southern California. But, it's just like the whole industry is evolving, and you got some of those old timers there. We love them. They contributed. They meant so much to the sports culture here.
Different era.
But it's a different era.
Yeah. But read the column. It's really well written. He's a wordsmith. It was just exceptional. Okay, it's your turn to take over.